Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in Season 2 Part 21 of What If the Transformers Were in My Hero Academia. Link in the description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 41, Deciding Where to Go. Izuku was out of breath as he finally made it to the cafeteria. Not because he was tired from running, oh no, he had built up enough stamina to withstand at least a 10-kilometer sprint. Rather, he was exhausted from just how much he screamed along the way. The way All Might told him to leave was something that he hadn't seen before in the man, and it was honestly both jarring and a bit terrifying for him. I've never seen All Might so scared in my entire life. Izuku bit his lip, pondering what exactly this, Gran Torino, had done to get that sort of reaction from the number one hero. Gran Torino, he sounds like a hero who's really old school, Izuku started muttering to himself. Could it be that he trained All Might in a way that earned so much respect that it's to the point where he's intimidated by him? Or are his teaching methods really that horrific? Given what All Might put me through when I was training to inherit One for All, I can only imagine what sort of thing that Gran Torino could have me. Yo, Izuku. Just when he thought he couldn't scream anymore, Izuku proved himself wrong. Or rather, Kyoka proved him wrong, seeing the girl flagging him down from a table not too far away. There, nearly all of his friends sat with her, including Shoto and Keita, the perplet giving him an incredulous look. Whoa, chill out, dude. You were muttering to yourself again. Denki shot him a small smirk. Might wanna break that habit, dude, otherwise you're gonna get jumped for real and then you'll have something to scream about. Izuku cleared his throat, avoiding eye contact at the awkwardness. Alright, sorry. He took a deep breath and went over, sitting next to Kyoka in a seat that was presumably saved for him. Ahem, so, have you guys gone over your options yet? No, we've been waiting for you. Momo explained. After all, out of all of us, you and Todoroki have the most options to choose from, so it only seemed fair. I see. Izuku then took note of a couple absent heads from the lineup. And what about Iida? And Kirishima? Where are they? Ochako gave a pout at the mention of the former. Well apparently, Iida already made his decision long before we gathered ourselves up. She folded her arms over her chest and turned away. And to top it off, he said he wanted to eat alone. I swear, it's like he's going out of his way to avoid us. Hey, come on Uraraka, don't be upset. Izuku implored. I mean, Iida's still going through a rough time, it might be a while before we see signs of the old him back. The table became quiet for a few moments after that, but Izuku proceeded on nonetheless. Kirishima. Where's he? He is currently sticking his neck out. Mina smirked and jerked a thumb over her shoulder. Both for your sake, and his. The entire table spun their heads and saw the spiky redhead sitting at Bakugo's table inside the building, and they were also joined by Shiro and Sato. The two boys were currently bantering back and forth, though what about, they couldn't guess. Thankfully, Eijiro seemed to be enjoying himself, while Katsuki was his ever-frustrated self. You should really thank him, Midori. Mina titled her head toward the greenette. Despite everything, I think Kirishima might actually become Bakugo's friend at this rate. Izuku smiled and let out a short breath. I'm glad. I know that after divulging everything to you guys, you have no real reason to like Kacchan, but I'm glad that Kirishima is still making an effort with him there. Keita huffed through her nose as she plucked a piece of chicken off her plate. If it were me, I'd leave that asshole to the wolves. Everyone's focus was on her now as she spoke her case. Midoriya, I get that you wanna see if Bakugo can still have a chance to be a hero like he wants to be, but when it comes to bullies, it's a two-way street. They either make an effort to be better, or they end up being assholes for the rest of their lives. She glanced over to the ashen blonde. And given Baku Breath's attitude, I'm sorry, but I don't know if that's possible. Well, given that Midoriya humbled him a little at the sports festival, there may still be a chance, Shoto noted, his eyes closed as he slurped up some udon noodles. After swallowing, he continued, that and maybe some friends could be beneficial in the long run for him. Well, maybe, Keita admitted, but it's not a guarantee either. She eyed Midoriya in concern. I mean, don't you care at all about what he's done to you in the past? Izuku furrowed his brow at the Soro parts user. Of course, I do. I probably wouldn't have said half of those things to him at the sports festival if I didn't. He briefly eyed Kyoka, who was also listening intently. But at the same time, I don't want to be angry with him. I might have been frustrated with how he treated me, but after letting out my grievances at the festival, I actually feel a lot better, and it's made me want to try and reconnect with Kachan even more now, honestly. Several of his friends were left in shock and disbelief. Well, I can commend you for that, Midoriya. Momo trailed off. But that might be harder than you think. We'll see. Izuku noted, eyeing Bakugo and Kirishima one more time. If those two can connect, then maybe there's hope for me yet. He shook his head to get things back on track. But let's not focus on that right now. How about we go over what our options are for the internships? Everyone at the table peered down to the overturned sheets in front of them, and simply stared at them, feelings of anxiety and dread coursing through their bodies and souls. Why is that easier said than done? I know, right? Mina threw her head back and brought her hands over her eyes. I can't bear to look, and I only got 68 offers. Then, on a dime, her demeanor changed into one of frustration. HMPH, still peeved that I was one off from that magic number. Kyoka rolled her eyes before bringing them back to the paper. Memes aside, you're right, Mina. I mean, this is pretty much what we've been working toward through the whole festival. We all made it to the final round, but our reward for it is freaking intimidating. I've already seen a few of mine, admittedly. Shoto spoke up, the memory of a certain one still strong in his mind. It's honestly not that huge of a deal if you clear your mind and go for it. Momo clasped her hands together in a silent prayer. True, but these will still be an indicator of which heroes see potential in our future. So, should we take turns doing it or? I think all of us doing it at the same time is the way to go. Keita concluded almost too hastily. I mean, what better way to rip the bandage off than right away, ya know? Even as she gazed down to her own sheet, however, Keita was still racked with nerves. Sure, she got plenty of offers, more than even she was expecting, but still, her hopes were low when it came to a certain hero that she wanted to get the attention of being on this list. Someone like her would never want a temperamental person like me, not after that rampage. Alright then, Denki picked up his paper, followed by everyone else. On the count of 3, right. He got a collective nod from his friends, ushering him to do it. Okay, 1, 2, 3. With that, everyone flipped their papers over and began silently scanning across their offers, and Denki felt his jaw drop immediately when he spotted one of the first options on his page. No way. And then his words were echoed by everyone else, no way. Denki blinked in shock, his eyes darting around the table. Wow, okay, guess I'm not the only one who's shocked. Who'd you guys get? I'm sorry, I'm still coming to terms with this. Momo covered her mouth in shock. Of all heroes, I never expected him to scout me. Kyoka leaned forward in suspense. Well, don't keep us waiting, girl. Who is it? It's Edgeshot. Edgeshot. The entire table erupted, only to be shushed by Momo a second later. Shish sshshh. Please, quiet down. Her eyes darted around, making sure no one was around to hear that. I'd rather not be zeroed in on, thank you. Momo took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and then opened them back up. Indeed, the Ninja Heroes agency on her flyer, and she still couldn't believe it. This has to be a mistake. There's no way that Edgeshot of all heroes would be interested in me. Izuku gave a shrug. Well, I mean, I don't think it's out of the ordinary, actually, he pointed out. After all, he might have taken an interest in you thanks to your combat skills and your ability to think on your feet. Kyoka nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, girl, remember. You kicked my ass in the first round of the tournament. You might have gotten farther if you weren't overwhelmed in the second outing, so you should give yourself a pat on the back. She saw Momo's attention go back to the sheet of paper, her fingers clenching slightly in doubt. Kyoka sighed and reached over, placing a hand on her shoulder. Hey, as your best friend, I'm encouraging you to give it your best shot, okay? I'm sure that Edgeshot can help you improve your combat even more with skills like his, ya know. The creation user locked eyes with her best friend, feeling her encouraging gaze sending positive energy her way. Momo took a deep breath and came to her conclusion. Well, you do make a good point. Though I do still want to examine my other options as well. We do have 2 days, after all. Fair enough. But girl, listen up. Kyoka slowly waved her hand in front of Momo's eyes. You want to go to Edgeshot's agency. You want to go to Edgeshot's agency. You are aware that mind tricks don't work in real life, right? Momo deadpanned. Worth a shot. Momo couldn't help but shake her head at her friend's antics. Alright, then who did you get, Miss Jedi? It was then that Kyoka's demeanor changed to one of surprise as well, her eyes going back to her own paper. Well, you guys are probably never gonna believe me, but I got Gang Orca. What? Are you serious? Denki lifted up his own paper, pointing out the same agency on his paper. Dude, me too. Freaking crazy, right? That made Kyoka's eyes widen in fear. Wait, what? Why'd he go after both of us? Izuku thought that over for a moment before coming to a conclusion. Well, if I had to guess, I think it might be due to your quirk's relation to his native element, water. He pointed to Kyoka first. Think about it, cetaceans like whales and dolphins use echolocation in the water, and so Gang Orca has some sound-based capabilities thanks to his quirk. If I had to guess, he'd probably want to help you improve your own use of sound. Oh, yeah, Kyoka nodded. That makes sense, but then what about jamming Ye? Izuku shifted focus to the now annoyed blonde, explaining his other reasoning. Well, considering your quirk, Kaminari, electricity is able to conduct easier in water, so maybe Orca wants to see just how much your quirk is affected by water. He extended a hand to him. After all, you've probably never used it in water, right? Only once, at the USJ. Denki recalled. And let me tell ya, it was pretty effective on all those water villains. The electrification user's eyes brightened up at that. Hey, so maybe that means he'll be able to help me get a better handle on my quirk even more. If I can survive getting myself shocked in water, I can do anything. That line of thinking probably isn't healthy. Kyoka deadpanned, still considering her options as she went through the list. I'm still just kinda surprised that Gang Orca went for both of us, honestly. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who'd do this kind of thing. She eyed Izuku once again, seeing that he was back to thinking, and judging by his expression, he must have figured something out. What's up, Green Bean? Any more thoughts? The greenette tapped his fingers sheepishly. I think, his eyes shifted between her and Denki. I think he might have taken your aesthetics into consideration. After all, his name is Gang Orca for a reason and Jiro and I dress like punks. Haha. Of course. Denki facepalmed. I should have guessed. Our hero costumes make us look like gang members. Kyoka's eyes widened in realization. Oh my god, you're right. That's so weird. She shook her head to get herself back on track. Well, I'll consider it. Not exactly thrilled if I have to spend a week with jamming Ye, but if this guy can help me enhance my jacks, then that may sway things a bit. Her expression soured when she saw another name on the list. HMPH, besides, any option's better than Death Arms. He's a decent hero, but he smokes, and I'm not about to live with that even for a week. Mina huffed and folded her arms, her dissatisfaction all too clear. HMPH, well congrats on you guys getting cool names from the top 10, Mina flung her sheet up and slapped it. You wanna know who I got? Crust. Crust. Isn't he, like, the really emotional one who cries about everything? Hey. Don't judge Crust just based on his personality. Izuku stood up, putting on a serious demeanor. And he doesn't cry at everything, he's just passionate. If anything, you should be incredibly excited, Ishido. The shield hero taking interest in you says a lot about you, and not just because he's in the top 10. Well, yeah, I get that, but why would the shield hero take interest in someone who's got acid powers? Mina asked. I'd probably be able to melt through whatever he puts up. Izuku gave her a knowing smile. Don't be so hasty to say that. Crust's shields are nothing to scoff at. They're so durable that it's rumored that it even takes Edgeshot a minute to get through them. He pointed down to her hands. So, if I'm guessing correctly, then I think he might want to train you to the point where your acid could melt through some of his defenses. Mina blinked at Izuku's rational thinking, taking a second to weigh her options. You know, that does kinda make sense, I'll think about it, but it's not a guarantee. Guys. Everyone's heads perked up when Eijiro came dashing over to them, the young man grinning so much that they were afraid his smile would fly off his face. Guys, you will never believe this. I just took a look at the offers I got, and guess who wants me? Denki was all about his friend's enthusiasm. Whoa ho. Well, don't keep us in suspense, bro. Who is it? Only the manliest hero in all of Japan's top 10. The shield hero, Crust. Everyone stared at Eijiro in disbelief, most of all Mina. Bro, I was kinda considering fourth kind for my internship, but after seeing Crust on my sheet, I know I've gotta pick him. He whipped his head toward Mina, who flinched at the sudden move. Ishido, doesn't that sound so cool? Yeah, Kirishima. Mina blushed a little as she answered. Glad you're so psyched. Eijiro raised his fists in determination. Oh, you bet I am. I'm gonna go hand in my form now, so I'll catch you guys in class. As the redhead left, however, Kyoka smirked and began counting down on her fingers. 3, 2, 1, sure enough, Mina slammed the paper down, wrote in her choice, gave a quick, BRB, and then dashed off after the spiky redhead. Hey, knew it. Momo shook her head with an amused grin. That girl is so thirsty. She then turned her attention to Ochako next. What about you, Uraraka? Any interesting agencies catch your eye? The brunette gave a sigh. Yeah, almost too many. Her gaze was sympathetic as she looked to her friends. I'm kinda glad I don't have as many options as you guys do, but I think I've already spotted a couple. Ochako lifted her sheet up, showing them as she pointed to one of her picks. I actually think this one might be good for me. Izuku peered closer and his eyebrows flew up in astonishment. Wait, Gunhead. Are you sure, Uraraka? Hey yeah, isn't Gunhead a combat hero? Mina tilted her head in confusion. I thought you wanted to be a rescue hero, right? Oh, without a doubt. Ochako assured. And I still do, but at the same time, the sports festival showed me that I still have a lot to work on. She found herself flashing back to her match against Bakugo, remembering how she fumbled at the end. Of course, being a good rescue hero means learning how to safely evacuate people and handling the operations themselves, but at the same time, I can't afford to let any lingering villains take me off guard. So, I think it's best if I learn some basic hand-to-hand combat just to be sure, you know. Shoto nodded in approval. Makes sense. Even when focused on a certain type of heroism, it's best to have the basics on everything in mind. Very well thought out. Ochako couldn't help but blush at the compliment. Aw, shucks. Thanks Todoroki. So, who'd you get? I'll save mine for later. Shoto deflected, his eyes going straight to his best friend, who had her head buried in her flyer. Meanwhile, you've been awfully quiet, Keita. Is there something wrong, Keita? Everyone grew concerned when she didn't respond and Shoto reached up, pulling the paper down, only to reveal Keita's tear-stained face. Keita. Kiryu. Izuku and the others leaned in, concern etched across their features. What's wrong? Shoto could only assume the worst. Don't tell me, you didn't. Keita suddenly exhaled, and no. Oh, Keita, I'm so sorry. Momo reached out and put her hand over Keita's in reassurance. I know you were pulling hard for that, but... MHA. Keita wiped away her tears, only then realizing that they were misunderstanding her. And no, that's not it. With a shaky smile, she turned her flyer around so that everyone could see, pointing to the agency she found. Look, the group peered closer to the paper, and things became much clearer in that moment. Keita was crying tears of joy, for right there in black and white were the words. Dragon Hero Agency, by special request, Yukio. The whole table burst out into victorious cheers at the sight, with the girls rushing straight up and pulling the Soro Parts user into a group hug. Ah, you're in, girl. You're seriously in, Kyoka exclaimed. Congratulations. Momo cried out joyfully. Ochako laughed as she bounced up and down. Haha, you see, you should have had way more faith in yourself. And you said she'd be driven off by what happened at the festival, she knocked Keita on the shoulder. Well, guess you've gotta take that statement back and get a refund. Keita was breathing rapidly as she was still processing it all in her mind. Yukio actually wanted her to intern at her agency. This had to be a dream. I still can't believe it. Why would she? I was such a screw up at the festival, how did I? Stop saying that, Shoto said abruptly, giving her a stern eye. Keita, I've known you for 3 years, so I'm confident in saying I know you well enough to know you're not a screw up. He reached up and put a hand to her shoulder. You just got mad and lost control in one instance. It doesn't mean it'll happen again. In fact, I think Yukio reached out specifically to help you make sure it doesn't happen again. A soft smile came to his features, giving Keita's arm a reassuring squeeze. If there's anyone who knows about transformation-type quirks, it's Yukio. And in my opinion, you should take that opportunity. Keita stared at her best friend for a few seconds, before lowering her head so that her hair covered her eyes. But, what if I mess up? What if I leave a bad impression? Keita, if Yukio was worried about a bad first impression, do you think she'd reach out after seeing what happened? The half-and-half user furrowed his brow. With more conviction. No. Keita grit her teeth. Shoto's expression hardened further. Say it like you mean it. And that's when Keita's fire was lit. No. She roared. Good. Now, I want you to take this. Shoto handed her the flyer. And this. He handed her a pen next before pointing toward the school. And go submit your choice to Mr. Aizawa. Because honestly, you and I both know that there's no place you'd rather go, am I right? With more tears threatening to come out the corners of her eyes, Keita took a deep breath and nodded resolutely. You're right, Shoto. I've gotta do this. This is my dream, and I'm gonna make it a reality. Before anyone could say anything else, Keita was off, speeding toward the building with a cloud of dust trailing behind her. See you all in class. The group simply stared at Keita as she left, with Ochako muttering, she can move that fast even without her raptor legs. When she's motivated, I think she can do damn well anything. Shoto remarked before his expression fell back to his usual neutral one. But, now that she's gone, I can tell you who the standout is on my list of offers. He threw his stack of papers on the table and there, right near the top of the page, everyone saw it. Endeavor Hero Agency. Izuku and Kyoko immediately gasped, taken aback, though not entirely surprised. Oh, probably should have seen that coming. The greenette remarked, eyeing the white and red-haired teen across the table. So I'm guessing hyping Keita up to go submit her choice was to get her away so you could show us. Yeah, Keita's my best friend, but she'd have a fit if she saw that my father made an offer for me. Denki, Ochako and Momo, however, were left confused by the whole thing. Wait, dude, isn't that like, a good thing, though? Your dad's the number 2 hero. I mean sure, you could argue favoritism, but he is number 2 for a reason. Shoto, surprisingly to the others, was in full agreement. Exactly, though to say I don't have the best relationship with him is putting it mildly at best. Oh, I see. Momo muttered, making sure to be more delicate going forward. Well, Todoroki, in the end, it's really up to you to make the choice of where you want to go. Ain't that the truth? Kyoko remarked confidently as she went to take a sip of her drink. Which is why for the sake of yourself and Keita's peace of mind, you'll probably go someplace else, right? The young man glanced back down to his paper, replying with a stoic, I'm choosing my father. And Kyoko spat out her drink. PFFFFFTTT. What? The punk rocker stood up and slammed her hands on the table. Dude, what the hell? I thought you just said you couldn't stand your dad. She made sure to choose her words carefully, so she wouldn't accidentally reveal that she had snooped in on his and Izuku's conversation the other day. You're right, I can't. Shoto brought his eyes back up to the group. But in the end, I also want to become a better hero, and like it or not, my old man is still the number 2 pro. That, and, I've realized that having an ongoing vendetta against him is only going to cloud my mind even more. He eyed Izuku in particular. Thanks for helping me clear that up, by the way. And no problem, though I hope you're absolutely sure about wanting to intern with him. Izuku said with a great weight behind his voice. Shoto nodded back. I am. I've already made peace with that choice. But, in an instant, a twinge of fear came to the boy's face. The real challenge will be breaking the news to Keita. She's going to flip out and rip me to shreds. Yeah, good luck with that. Ochako shifted her eyes away with a dark expression. And by that, I mean dying. Kyoka's hands flew up and she backed away as well. You brought that one on yourself, dude. I ain't breaking that news to Keita, I know that much. Ha, I suppose you're right, but I'll at least wait until Sunday to tell her so that we're not in school when it happens. Shoto took his empty tray and stepped away from the table, bowing his head in farewell. I'm gonna go enter my choice to Mr. Aizawa, I suggest you guys all do the same soon. Right, catch you later, Todoroki. The 5 remaining teens watched as Shoto walked back toward the school, leaving them to freely discuss something that Momo had on her mind. Alright, everyone, I didn't want to bring anything up while Todoroki and Kiryu were here, but, she motioned for them all to gather and toward the table before whispering, do you think that we got so many offers from the top 10 not just because we did well in the sports festival, but because of our association with the Autobots as well? The group were taken by surprise by the suggestion, though Denki and Ochako seemed more so. Oh yeah, that's right, you guys did meet most of the top 10 a while back. The electrification user put a hand to his chin and thought. I mean, it's certainly a theory, but at the same time, why would they make offers to Ishido, Kirishima and me without even meeting us? Well, just to point something out, Ochako lifted up her flyer of offers again. I actually did get an offer from Yukio, too. I just didn't want to mention it in case Keita didn't. With all widened eyes on her, the brunette continued. But yeah, now that you mentioned it, a lot of the top 10 seem to be eyeing us. Maybe they already know we're with the Autobots thanks to Agent Fowler. HMPH, yeah, that's a good point. Kyoka agreed. He's probably gotta keep all of them informed just in case they end up on missions with us. She stared down to her offer from Gang Orca again. So, what do we do? Well, I think you guys should go with whatever your gut says. Izuku piped up, giving them supportive smiles. By Autobot association or not, we've still got offers from the top 10, and that's a really big deal. Besides, out of all the offers I got, he pulled out a small slip of paper from his pocket to show everyone. I know exactly who I'm going for, and they aren't even in the top 10. The group peered closer to the address on the slip, and were left perplexed. Who the heck is Gran Torino? Kyoka asked. Remember why All Might wanted to pull me aside before lunch? Well, turns out, Gran Torino is his old mentor. Taught him everything he knows. Izuku's smile faltered somewhat as he remembered All Might's reaction just minutes before. Though, from the sounds of it, he may be an intimidating mentor, but all the same, I can't waste the opportunity he's reached out to give me. I think you guys should do the same. Go with what speaks to you the most. The 4 teens all glanced to one another thoughtfully before Momo gave her approval. Wise words, Midoriya. I think I'll do just that. She reached for her pen and paper, marking her choice for Edgeshot. I want to be more than just a supportive hero who can make things for others, after all. And I believe Edgeshot can help me with that. Ochako pumped a fist as she marked her choice down as well. Yeah, and with Gunhead martial arts, I'm sure I'll be able to be ready for whatever comes my way. Denki grabbed his own pen and marked down Gang Orca. Hey, well, I'm not about to refuse one of the most badass heroes in the country who wants to see what I can do. I'm in for Gang Orca. His eyes lit up as he looked at Kyoka. What about you, Jiro? You gonna go with Gang Orca too? Kyoka raised a brow down to her options, noting that she had a lot more to choose from. Well, maybe. I don't think I'll make my choice just yet. Who knows? Maybe there'll be someone else on this list who'll catch my eye. She smiled to her friends as she got up from the table. And besides, we've got until Saturday to turn these in, so I've got plenty of time. So, shall we head back to class? With the group in agreement, they all walked back to the classroom, all while Jiro stayed silent as she stared at another hero's name on her sheet that had crossed her line of sight. Thing was, though, it was only one name, not an agency, meaning that this must have been a freelancer. But ultimately, she decided to put the flyer away, resolving to think on it later. Several hours later, after the final bell of the school day, everyone met out in the parking lot, with the 8-1A students grouping up with the 4 students from 1B immediately. As they all walked side by side, it didn't take long for them to start chatting about how their respective classes went, exchanging their new codenames with one another. So, now that we've told you yours, what did you guys choose? Eijiro asked as he smirked at Tetsu. Please don't tell me it's something dumb like, Metal Muncher. Oh, Har har, very funny, edge boy. Tetsu fired back before puffing his chest out proudly. Well, if you must know, the name's Real Steel. Sounds badass, am I right? Isn't that the name of that old movie starring the guy who played Wolverine? Kyoka pointed out, only for Tetsu's eyes to bug out. Whoa, you've seen it too. The punk rocker vehemently shook her head. What? No, I just heard the name before. Eijiro, however, gave a thumbs up. Bro, I've seen it. Hugh Jackman was one hell of an actor back in the day. I know, right? Tetsu balled a fist as he cried happy tears. A real man's man, that guy. Setsuna and some of the others rolled their eyes before the green-haired girl spoke her piece. Well, my hero name is Lizardy, she said with her head held high and a hand over her chest. I think it fits well with my quirk, if I do say so myself. Mina grinned and raised an eyebrow at her. Fan of lizards, Big fan. Setsuna winked. You should see my hero outfit, it's totes like a lizard. And leaves little to the imagination. Abara noted with a frustrated grumble, seeing Setsuna's smirk widen. I mean, it's like you took inspiration from Midnight herself. The green-haired girl refuted that rather quickly. Hey, come on, I bet it's easier to move around in than that shower curtain you call a hero costume. It is a dress, thank you. The Vine user retorted, only to deflate as she remembered something upsetting. And unfortunately, Midnight disapproved of the name I wanted to give myself to reflect said dress. Denki tilted his head. Oh, and what's that, Shiozaki? Abara brought her hands together and craned her head toward the sky, where, from somewhere no one could see, a golden, heavenly light began shining down on her, leaving the rest of them in darkness. Why, only the namesake from which my dress was inspired by, the Virgin Mary herself. Wait, you mean that Mary? The one from the Bible. Denki pointed to her. You wanted to be called, Mary. Yes, that's correct, Abara said in distress before hanging her head low. Oh, but alas, it was not meant to be. Midnight disapproved it because she said the general public of Japan wouldn't get it. But if that's the case, she whipped her arms over to Mina. How in the name of the Holy Spirit did she approve your name of, Alien Queen? It's been almost 2 centuries since that movie came out. Mina deadpanned as she gestured to herself, pulling on her horns a little for good measure. 'Cause compared to the normal crowd, I actually kinda resemble an alien. And, I mean, I guess you do kinda got the whole crown of thorns thing going for you, but otherwise, if anything, that just seemed to make Abara more upset, the girl pouting at the pinkett. Hey, let's not just throw in the towel here, huh? Denki tried to reassure her the best he could. I mean, okay, you might not be able to call yourself Mary, but I'm sure that there's plenty of other awesome or regal names you could give yourself, right? Abara spared a glance up to the boy, seeing his hopeful smile, and feeling a bit of light enter her soul at the sight. Well, I suppose you have a point. She felt the corners of her mouth tug up into a grin over her own and she gave him a nod, trying to hide her blush. Alright, I'll do my best to find a hero name that is elegant in its own right. Thank you, Kaminari. Denki gave her a thumbs up, his own cheeks turning a light shade of pink. Yeah, anytime. Kyoka groaned at the sight. Gosh, it's so saccharine it hurts. What was that? Abara leaned past Denki so she should see Kyoka, giving her a pointed look. Oh, nothing. Just hoping you come up with a good name. The punk rocker shifted her sights away from Abara, who narrowed her eyes in suspicion. Alright, that just leaves you, Kendo. What hero name did you go with? Itsuka absent-mindedly started messing with her ponytail a bit. Well, I dunno, after hearing all of your guys' names, mine kinda feels a bit simple in comparison. I doubt that. Ochako encouraged with a small nudge of her elbow. Come on, neighbor, let's hear it. The redhead let out a chuckle as she raised her hand to brush the elbow away. Haha, okay, if you insist. She pulled her fists down to her sides and punched one forward, proclaiming, my new code name is the Fighting Hero, Battle Fist. How does that sound? It sounds perfect, Momo commended immediately. It gets right to the point of what you're all about, Kendo. Indeed, I greatly approve as well. Tenya nodded resolutely. A fine name for a combat-oriented hero. Pretty soon, everyone was voicing their praise, and a blush found its way to Itsuka's face at their words. Aw, shucks guys, thank you so much. Her hand went to her neck sheepishly. I honestly thought it was a bit too on the nose, you know. Hey, our classmate Kata thought the same thing about her hero name, and we were all for it. Kyoka noted. Sometimes, simplicity is key. She curled one of her jacks around her finger for emphasis. Hell, I named myself after my quirk name and I think it works. Yeah, and mine is literally my name and gravity put together. Ochako vouched as well. Sometimes, it doesn't take a whole lot of thinking, just going with your gut. As they spoke, however, Tenya felt his insecurities on the subject begin to rise in his own gut. How can I trust my gut to take on my brother's name, when I don't feel worthy of it? Will I even be able to keep my promise? He shook his head at that and cleared his throat. Ahem, well, sorry to say, but I'm afraid that this is where we must part ways. He bowed to his friends apologetically. I promised my parents that I would assist them in running a few errands. We want my brother's room ready for when he is discharged from the hospital, so we need to make the necessary preparations. Oh, hey, no problem, Iida. Izuku assured. Eijiro gave a thumbs up as well. Yeah, man, go do what you gotta do. I'm just glad you told us this time. Kyoka approved. Make sure to keep us in the loop, okay? Tenya smiled graciously to them. Yes, of course. Once again, I apologize for my reckless actions from this morning. He stood up straight and went to turn toward the school's main gate. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must be, oof. Without warning, though, a wall of papers and blueprints suddenly smacked into his face, making him double back in shock. What in the world? Oops. Sorry there, Specs. A familiar voice piped up from behind. Didn't see ya there. Hatsume. Tenya set an incredulous gaze onto her. What are all these? Oh, they're just some babies I thought up in class today. May bounced up and down in excitement. I got all sorts of offers from several different support companies and I've gotta make baby that'll really wow 'em when I do my presentation for the one I choose. I just thought I'd bring some back to base so Red can take a gander at what I've got. She popped her head out from behind the papers as best she could and smiled at her friends. So, you guys ready to roll out? Tenya's expression became sympathetic as he bowed his head slightly. Well, I would, but I have to be home after school today. My parents have asked me to help them run some errands for my brother. The Pinkett became a bit crestfallen when she heard that. Oh, I getcha. But then, her smile came back tenfold. Well, I wish you luck. I'll see ya when I see ya, I guess. The class rep certainly wasn't expecting that reaction, but he was glad that she respected his wishes. Of course. Hopefully sometime soon. And with that, Tenya began his jog toward the school gate, leaving the rest of his friends behind, and allowing May to deflate again. He's avoiding us, she muttered. Yeah, as much as I don't want to admit it, I think you're right, May. Kyoka agreed, placing a hand on her shoulder. But don't worry, I'm sure he'll come around soon. After all, he promised he'd do better this morning, remember? May eyed Kyoka, the punk rocker left surprised by just how sad she seemed to be. Yeah, maybe. She shook her head and put on a more serious demeanor, proceeding toward the parking lot. Alright, let's head out, huh? I'm sure the bots are waiting, right? Right. As the inventor took the lead, however, Kyoka went to the others in concern. Is it just me, or is May a bit more upset about Iida than the rest of us? Well, she probably still feels guilty about how she practically ragdolled him at the festival. Denki reiterated. After all, she hasn't been able to stop thinking about it since then. The electric blonde gave a small shrug. But hey, knowing May, I'm sure she'll move on eventually. She might be hyper-focused when it comes to inventing, but she's also kinda scatterbrained, and I mean that in the best way possible. The others shot him questioning looks, but decided not to dwell on that, at least not too much. Way to cover your ass there, jamming yay. Come on, the Autobots are waiting. Little did the teens know, however, that they'd be taking the expressway home. As it happened, Optimus wanted as little risk as possible after the incident from the other day, at least according to RC. So, once they all loaded up, they went straight toward one of the school's training grounds and bridged out from there, arriving back at base within moments. You know, we should probably just do that from now on. Eijiro piped up as they piled out of the bots. That's a lot easier than going back and forth after school. Yeah, plus it'll be a lot less weird than me riding a rocket-powered skateboard to base. Tetsu added as Grinder transformed behind him. Not that I don't like riding ya, Grinder, but, well. Oh, it's cool, bro. The mini-con waved off. I totally get it. Honestly, if could hide my thrusters, I would. He put a hand behind his head with an awkward chuckle, but they're kinda necessary to form safeguard. Surshak and High Wire transformed as well, the former cupping her hands together. Well, regardless, I believe bridging to base after school is a superb idea. Her optics became happy as she turned toward her human partner. After all, it allows us more time together, right, Lady Ibarra? The Vine user was quick to concur. Oh, indeed. It's very handy, oh. But then, the girl suddenly stumbled as she placed her hands on Surshak's arm, holding herself steady. Oh, though I think it'll still be a while before we're fully used to it. Setsuna placed a hand over her own stomach as well. Yeah, for some reason, going through those portals gives me a nasty feeling. She tilted her head toward the group from 1A. You guys ever get that feeling? Oh yeah, almost all the time when we started going through ground bridges. Kyoka affirmed as RC and Bumblebee transformed and started making their way toward the base. Don't worry, it gets easier the more you do it. Well, that's a relief. Itsuka craned her head up as she heard Flare Up transform behind her, raising a brow to her. Though on days when I have to work, I'll need transportation there and back, so I might not be able to come here every day. The Autobot scout gave a small wave. Ah, don't worry about it, love. I'll make sure you get wherever you need to go. With a thumbs up, Flare Up gave a vigorous, and that's an Autobot guarantee. Then, she suddenly lowered herself to her knees, her features beaming with anticipation. So, how'd things go in school today? Did you get your code names? And, what about those internships? Ah, did you guys get scouted by some awesome heroes? Itsuka laughed and put up a hand to try and slow her down. Haha, whoa, slow down there, Flare. The femme, however, just sent her a questioning smirk. Love, do you have any idea who you're talking to? Okay, I walked into that one, but don't worry, we'll explain everything soon. With that, everyone made their way into the warehouse, only to find that all of the Autobots were gathered in one place, in front of the main console. There, up on the screen, was none other than Agent Burns, the man speaking directly to Optimus Prime. So that's the story, huh? He nodded in understanding. I see. Well, if anything, I'm just glad that those kids weren't hurt and you managed to retrieve your little partner there, Prime. Thank you, Agent Burns. Optimus shifted his attention to Roller on his shoulder, giving his partner Minicon a small smile. I am glad that we are reunited as well. But, there are still some pressing matters to address. His demeanor became serious again as he continued. The Decepticons remain active in Japan, despite them being a full continent away. They know we are here somewhere, meaning that we need to deter them from this area entirely. Lest more incidents similar to the day before continue to occur. Jacob bobbed his head. I agree with you 1000%, Prime. Though unfortunately, I can't really take action until Agent Fowler gets back from his mission abroad. As soon as he does, though, we'll work on setting up some waypoints throughout the country. Next to Optimus, Red Alert hummed at that. Yes, hopefully with more Sector 7 agents on watch, the Decepticons will be less likely to encroach into our territory. Very well. I anticipate Agent Fowler's return. Agent Burns. Optimus trailed off as he spotted RC, Bumblebee, Flare Up and the children enter, leading him to end the conversation. It was good talking with you. Prime, out. With Burns giving his own farewell, the call ended, leaving the Autobots free for their allies. Welcome back, everyone. I trust you had a good day. Oh ho, you betcha. Mina cheered. Today was probably the best day of school ever. Bulkhead let out a surprised laugh at that. Ha ha ha. Whoa ho, now that's saying something. He nudged Springer with his elbow. You know when Mina gives a school day a glowing review, something awesome must have happened. Is that so? Springer raised an eyelash down to the pink girl. Well, don't leave us hanging, little wrecker. What's going on over there? Well, Not only did we solidify our hero names, Mina placed a hand on her chest as she rose her head up proudly. But you guys are now in the presence of several future hero interns. Haha, no way. Sideswipe clamored forward, eager to hear more. You guys serious? They must be. Red Alert said as he spotted May, taking note of how many blueprints she was carrying. And I'm assuming that we have some work to do ourselves, correct? May gave him a soft smile and chuckled. Hee hee, how'd ya guess? Come on, let's get crackin'. If I wanna make a good impression on those support companies that I got offers from. As the two went straight toward the med room, Sideswipe only kept pumping his legs up and down in excitement. So, come on, don't leave us in suspense. Who'd you guys get? Or, I guess, who'd you end up going with? Eijiro came up and stood next to Mina, pointing his thumb between himself and her. Hee hee, well, Sideswipe, starting a week and a half from now, we're gonna be interning under the manliest hero in all of current-day Japan. He and Mina pumped their fists up and knocked them together. Because none other than the shield hero, Crust, has offered to take us under his wing. Huh, no way, Sideswipe exclaimed, one of the top 10. He offered Eijiro a fist bump of his own. Dude, congrats, you freaking nailed it. Bulkhead came down as well, lifting Mina up in his hands with another hearty laugh. Ha ha ha, I knew you'd get some big attention, Mina. Awesome job. Ha ha, thanks, Bulk. Mina beamed with joy. I wasn't sure if anyone would be interested in me after getting beat in the first round of the tournament, but I'm super glad I was. Windblade also stepped in and scooped Momo up, setting the creation user on her shoulder. Alright, Momo, I want all the details on who you got offers from. Leave nothing to my imagination. Well, to be perfectly honest, I also already made my decision, so there isn't much to talk about, unfortunately. The raven-haired girl gave her guardian an apologetic bow. Sorry, Windblade, though I can tell you that I did recognize several reputable names on my list, so I know I got a fair amount of attention. If anything, that made Windblade all the happier. Oh, Momo, I'm so glad to hear that. Just goes to show you that our training together wasn't in vain. So, who'd you end up going with? At this, Momo wore a knowing smile. Oh, no one major, just Edgeshot. And, just like that, every Autobot there exclaimed, Edgeshot. Windblade herself couldn't believe it. As in, the ninja who helped us at the museum and is also in the top 10, that Edgeshot. The very same. Holy scrap, you kids got some eyes on you. After hearing all of this, Sunstreaker came forward and kneeled down in front of Denki, grinning in expectancy and confidence. Ho ho, okay, Denki, lay it on me. You had to have gotten a big name's attention, am I right? Denki responded with a wink and pointing finger guns up to the yellow bot. Oh, you know it, Sonny. Soon, I, and potentially Jiro, will be headed over to Gang Orcas for some hardcore training. And just like that, Sunstreaker's jaw was almost to the floor, and Jazz's attention was garnered real quick. Whoa, Gang Orca, foe, real. His optics zeroed in on his fellow sound maker. Kyoka, girl, that's one hell of a get. Another dude in the top 10, you gotta be proud of that, no doubt about it. Hey, well, I am pretty proud of it, sure. Kyoka affirmed, only to shift her eyes off to the side. But I'm honestly still thinking my choice over. I got a surprising amount of offers from plenty of different places, so I think it'll take a couple days to go over every option. She let out a sigh and curled one of her jacks around her finger. In all honesty, I'm just glad that there are hero agencies out there who want to take me on. Didn't think I'd get this far. RC shook her head down to the earphone jack user. Oh, don't say stuff like that, Kyoka. She knelt down and tapped a finger on her head. I think you have to have a little more faith in yourself. After all, with a quirk like yours, you were bound to catch some eyes. Ah, thanks, RC. Speaking of which, Kyoka peered over her shoulder toward Ochako. I'm pretty sure, Choco wants to share her choice with you as well. Ooh, yeah, tell me who you chose, Ochako. RC encouraged. Let me guess, you chose a rescue hero, right? But Ochako shook her head. Actually, no. Instead, I decided on the combat hero, Gunhead. She saw RC's optics widen immediately, which led her to explain herself. Now, I know what you're thinking, and yes, it is a bit out of left field. But, to tell the truth, after the sports festival, I realized how important it is to have some combat skills, even if I want to be a rescue hero. So, my hope is that learning gunhead martial arts will help me out in that area. I can understand your logic in that choice, Ochako. Optimus spoke up as he approached, having listened intently in the background. Basic combat training would be prudent, even in the field you're focusing your efforts in. I commend your choice greatly. The gravity user's smile widened and her cheeks flushed a bit at the praise. Ah, thanks, Optimus. You are welcome. Optimus' focus then went to Izuku, the boy standing next to Bumblebee and patiently waiting for the Prime to make his way over. And, once he did, the Autobot leader could only ask, so, given your placement in the festival, I am assuming that you must have gotten several offers from many heroes. That's an understatement, Optimus. Izuku held up 3 fingers. Over 3,000. Fantastic. The Prime emphasized calmly, though he was internally overjoyed at the news. And I assume that some had to be from the top 10, correct? To that, Izuku only gave a shrug. I dunno. I didn't look at any of them. Seeing the shocked expression of Optimus and Bumblebee, along with a few other bots, Izuku pulled out the small slip of paper that he had held onto from All Might. Because there was one last offer that came in late, and it's the one I'm going with. Because this hero, get this, is none other than All Might's old mentor. Those words managed to even take Optimus off guard a little. So even All Might had a mentor. He placed a hand to his chin. That is quite interesting. I wonder why he hadn't mentioned it up until now. Well, he kinda told me that it's been a long time since he's seen Gran Torino. Izuku explained. He apparently doesn't see him often, apparently. Tetsu scratched his head at that. Which is weird, since you gotta figure that guy's pretty old, right? You'd think All Might would visit him more often if that's the case. Itsuka couldn't help but ponder that as well. You make a good point, though if this guy did train All Might, then he must be fairly healthy for his age. The redhead set her sights on Izuku. Otherwise, he wouldn't put in that request for you in the first place, Midoriya. Yeah, true, Izuku trailed off as he stared at Gran Torino's address, his hands trembling a little. And considering that even All Might seemed to have some sort of inherent fear of him, I've got a feeling that I'm in for some rough times ahead. Bumblebee cheered on next to him, giving Izuku a pat on the back. ZRKT, don't be discouraged. You can do it. Yeah, B's got a point, Midoriya. Setsuna gave her own thumbs up. Don't forget, you came out of the sports festival smelling like roses, so I'm sure that dealing with one old dude's teaching for a week ain't gonna kill ya. But then, her own expression soured a bit. And hey, at least you're not having to pick from a pre-chooses list like some of us in 1BR. I didn't get any offers. Oh, Setsuna, I'm so sorry to hear that. Highwire reached out and took hold of her shoulders, his optics visibly sad. That must have been very disheartening. Kinda, just as quickly, though, Setsuna pumped her fists and put on a more determined face. But that's only given me more of a reason to do better next year. I'm gonna get to those finals someday, you can bet on that. Springer showed his own support at that. Hey, now that's the spirit. It's like we used to say back in the unit, a good record doesn't go down until the last pin is pulled. Bulkhead gave a chuckle at that. Hee, ain't that the truth? The large bot then directed his attention down to Abara, Tetsu and Itsuka. And what about you three? Any takers for ya? Ooh, yeah. Flare Up whipped her head down toward Itsuka. Come on, love, spill. I wanna know if ya got any cool offers. Haha, okay, yes I got some good ones. Itsuka laughed half-heartedly. Though, not really all that many, at least compared to 1A. She gestured over to a certain sheepish Vine user. In fact, Shiozaki actually got the most offers of our entire class, a whopping 2,035. She saw Abara hide behind her hands as the Autobots marveled at the number, which made Itsuka roll her eyes. Oh, come on, Abara, don't be so embarrassed. Sir Shock nodded enthusiastically, bringing her hands up over her friends as the other mini-cons clapped in encouragement. Indeed, Lady Abara, that is quite the accomplishment. Oh, I know, but I feel so bad for everyone else. The young girl peeked out from behind her fingers. I feel like I just left everyone else in the dust because you girls decided to let me and Tetsu go into the finals. She brought her hand down and closed it over her chest. It feels like I took your offers away from you. Setsuna, however, took issue with that. Hey, say what you want, Obara, but I ain't about to regret that decision, and neither is Itsuka. Exactly. Itsuka concurred. It was only fair since you and Tetsu were the ones who kept fighting. We were left frozen and you had your headbands taken at the last minute. She offered Obara a grin. If that hadn't happened, then you guys probably would have advanced anyways. Tetsu huffed and folded his arms. HMPH, you bet we would've. Still can't believe that sneak from General Studies managed to get one over on us, which reminds me. He directed his attention over to Ochako, who flinched at his gaze. Hey, you were one of the ones he brainwashed along with Tail Guy and Narengeki, right? Do ya remember anything from the cavalry battle? 'Cause I spoke to Shota today and he said he didn't. Ochako nervously shook her head. No, not much, but listen, she furrowed her brow at the steel user. Tetsu, please don't hold it against Shinso. What he didn't wasn't nice, but he did apologize to me after his match with Deku. All he wants is to be a hero like the rest of us. With widened eyes, Tetsu let out a, Shota told me the same thing today. He gave a sigh and folded his arms, slightly frustrated. Alright, I guess I won't chew him out the next time I see him, but hopefully he's learned his lesson. He lifted his head up with a toothy smirk. And besides, I still got over 1,000 offers, so I guess I've got nothing to be mad about. Bro, sweet. Grinder gave Tetsu a high five. Hope ya pick a good place to go, man. Hey, thanks. Hey, wanna help me pick out where I should go? Dude, that'd be awesome. As the duo went off, Optimus clapped his hands together. Well, on that note, I believe it is time for our regular afternoon activities to commence. After all, even with the festival over, it would be prudent to prepare you for your upcoming internships. He nodded down to his young protege and his scout. Izuku, Bumblebee, please follow me. We have some training to do. With that, the Autobots and humans all began pairing off and heading to do their own thing, aside from Kyoka, who began making her way toward the back of the base. This didn't go unnoticed by Jazz, however, leaping over and landing in a crouch directly next to the punk rocker. And where are you going in such a hurry, Lil, Missy? Oh, hey, sorry Jazz, but could we hold off on training for just a little while? Kyoka reached around and pulled out her flyers. I just wanna take another quick look at my options. Make sure they're fresh in my mind, you know. Ah, I see. Totally get ya, Kyo. Jazz gave her double finger guns as he backed toward the exit. Come find me when you're ready, K. Thanks, I'll see you in a little bit. Once Jazz had gone, Kyoka found a chair and plopped herself down in it, sinking into the cushions as she once again glanced over the heroes who had scouted her out. Her eyes eventually fell upon Gang Orca again, and while she was interested in how he could possibly help her utilize her quirk, she was also not too keen on spending a week with just Kaminari. It wasn't that she disliked him, far from it, but there were still some things that convinced her she couldn't live with him. There are lots of things I'm willing to put up with, and that ain't it, Chief. Eventually, she came across the other name on the list that she had seen before, the hero she didn't recognize. Granted, there were some heroes on this list that she wasn't too familiar with, but at the same time, she at least heard their names on the news from time to time. But this one was strange and she hadn't heard it before now. There was a certain mystique to it, one that felt a bit intimidating yet also exciting as well, and she couldn't put her finger on why. In the end, she could only ask herself one question. Just who are you, Snake Eyes? Chapter 42, Convoy. I would first like to thank you all for coming here today. Optimus said as he stood before his guests. It was Friday, and while the children were all at school, the Prime had taken the opportunity to invite a few of their heroic allies to Autobot headquarters. Specifically, Yukio, Crust, Gang Orca and Edgeshot were all present and accounted for. He had extended the invitation to Hawks and Best Jeanist as well, but the two heroes were busy that day. And Optimus was certain that Endeavor wouldn't want to be there, so he decided to leave well enough alone. I am aware that this was on very short notice, but I wished to meet with you all on a topic of great importance. Crust gave a friendly smile with a reassuring wave. Oh, it's no problem at all, Optimus Prime. We're all absolutely honored that you invited us to your base, isn't that right? Indeed, quite the privilege, indeed. Gang Orca agreed, glancing toward the warehouse behind Optimus. Though I must admit, it is not what I would have expected. Tapping a finger to her chin, Yukio tilted her head. Yes, remind me why you bots don't just use Sector 7's headquarters as your base. It would seem much more efficient, honestly. Optimus nodded to her. I recognize that being based at Sector 7 would have been appropriate, Yukio, but for the sake of convenient access for the children, we agreed that being based closer to Musudafu was for the better. The Prime lowered himself down into a seating position, attempting to bring an air of casualness to the proceedings. But, on the topic of the children, that is actually what I've brought you all here to discuss. Edgeshot raised his head at that, a knowing smile under his mask. Ah, I see, they must have told you that some of us extended offers to them, didn't they? Indeed, Optimus confirmed. And I must say, they are quite excited about it. I should hope so. Gang Orca raised a hand. This is a big opportunity for all of them, and among all of Japan's heroes, the top 10 wish to see the future generations flourish the most, I can assure you. But, even as he said that, Orca lowered his head a bit in uncertainty. Well, most of us, anyways. Crust Winston brought a hand to his neck. Yes, I doubt that Endeavor really cares all that much about them, aside from his own son, of course. Optimus' irises furrowed. I sincerely doubt that. I wonder if they know. Brushing that thought aside for now, the Autobot leader continued on. In any case, I am glad that you are investing in the future of our charges. In doing so, not only did they feel accomplished, but so do my Autobots and myself. It helps reinforce that those 2 weeks of training did not go to waste. You should be very proud of those children, Optimus. Yukio smiled brightly. They might be some of the most determined, most focused group of first years I've ever seen in UA's history. Edgeshot closed his eyes, his thoughts harmonized with the dragon woman. Yes, they have great potential, and I have no doubt that their focus comes from experience. He opened his eyes and set them upon Prime's optics. After all, these students not only went through the USJ incident, but have encountered Decepticons several times over, including a recent rescue mission I heard about. You are correct, the students have faced Decepticons several times now. The Prime leaned forward, not breaking eye contact with the ninja. However, we are also careful to make sure that they are always safe, no matter what the situation might be. I'm glad to hear that, Optimus. Edgeshot approved. However, I get the sense that there is more to why you've summoned us here. There was a pause as Optimus took an intake of air, and nodded to him. Indeed, Edgeshot, there is. I admire all of you greatly for taking our human companions under your wings for the upcoming internships. However, I also wish to ask, your offers were not influenced through our mutual connection to one another, correct? That made Crust's and everyone else's eyes widen in surprise. So, you're asking if we chose them partly because we all know about you bots. He received a nod from the Prime, and proceeded to let out a hearty laugh, taking Optimus aback. Ahahaha. Oh, Optimus Prime, I must assure you that is far from the case. Yes, very much so. Orca asserted as well, looking up to the Autobot. While I can see how you would come to that conclusion, Optimus, that is far from the case. We all must leave our personal biases aside when reaching out to those who we want to in turn under us. Yukio furthered, shooting Optimus a reassuring smile. Trust us, we weren't influenced by any mutual connection whatsoever. Nothing to fear there. Thank you. All of you. Optimus placed a hand over his chest. I am glad that my worry was unfounded, and I apologize if it seemed like I was doubting you. Edgeshot shook his head. Don't worry about it. Believe me, your concerns are understandable, Optimus. After all, nepotism is sometimes something to worry about in the hero world. But, that being said, with eager eyes sparkling with hope, Edgeshot balled his fists and asked in anticipation, did Miss Yaoyorozu accept my offer? Please tell me she did. And what about Miss Uraraka? Yukio clasped her hands together. I extended offers to both her and Miss Kiryu, so I hope they say yes. With tears streaming down his cheeks, Crust added, and what of Mr. Kirishima and Miss Ishido? Their performances were inspiring to me, so I am anticipating to see if they accept. Optimus stared at the three heroes in surprise before trailing his optics over to Gang Orca, who sighed and held his head. I swear, sometimes the wait in receiving the offer applications is just as tormenting for the heroes as it is for the students. With hints of a smirk, Orca added, whether Kaminari or Jiro accept my offer or not is alright by me. I realize that my type of training may not be their scene, after all. I see. Optimus chortled before bowing to the others. Well, I must apologize to you, because I have been sworn to secrecy by the children. He winked and tapped his faceplate. And I'm not in the business of breaking my promises, so you know. The three heroes gave a disappointed groan at that, but it was quickly forgotten when a small, blue buggy came dashing around the corner and transformed into robot mode. Oh Optimus, you have, oh, hello. Roller came to a halt when he saw the four pros, putting on a surprise face. I didn't realize our company had arrived already. The humans were all wide-eyed at the tiny robot before them, with Yukio unable to contain her smile. Oh, how adorable. A tiny transformer. Tiny by their standards, at least. Edgeshot pointed out. Ah, yes, forgive me. Optimus reached over and placed a hand on his friend's back. Allow me to introduce you. This is my mini-con partner, Roller. We were only recently reunited. He nodded down to the small bot. And Roller, these are our guests, the pro heroes Yukio, Gang Orca, Edgeshot and Crust. Roller bowed in greeting. A pleasure to meet you all. I'm sorry for interrupting. He craned his head up to Prime, a sense of urgency upon his brow. But Optimus, you've got a call from one, Agent Fowler, I believe his name is. Prime's optics shifted back toward the base in curiosity. Agent Fowler. Now what could he be? Prime. Fowler's voice shouted through the base, taking everybody aback. Where in the name of Bunker Hill are you? Yeah, he's not happy. Roller muttered before transforming back into buggy mode. Come on, it's important. Optimus stood up and followed his mini-con inside, beckoning the heroes to follow. Once they were inside, they saw Red Alert, Strongarm, Bulkhead and Jazz all gathered at the main computer, with Fowler's face up on the screen. The agent gave an aggravated sigh when he saw the Autobot leader. Prime. Ha, there you are. But then, he noticed the four pro heroes as well. Ha, and you've already got backup. This is perfect. Special Agent Fowler. Optimus nodded back. To what do we owe? No time for chit-chat, Prime. Fowler interrupted with a swipe of his hand. We got cons, big time. I managed to chase him off with some hard ordnance, but not before they blew me out of the sky. Now that Optimus looked closely, Fowler was indeed strapped into the cockpit of an aircraft. They tried to smash and grab for the dingus. And that was where the Autobots were left clueless, and Yukio had to hold back a snicker. PFF'd, I'm sorry, the what now? Fowler rolled his eyes. Dynamic Nuclear Generation System, aka DNGS. Fowler pressed a button and the image on screen changed to a large, cube-shaped device that was being held down by ratchet straps in some sort of cargo bay. It's a prototype energy source that I'm porting to the coast. It's gotta get to I Island while it's still docked in the Los Angeles Bay Area, where it'll start its round of testing. Bulkhead raised an eyelash. I Island. What's that? Only the world's foremost center of technological advancement. Crust said exuberantly. It's quite the astounding place, I'll have you know. I've been many a time. Indeed, I heard that they're planning a rather sizable expo in the coming months. Edgeshot folded his arms. Should be quite the sight, though I have a feeling this, DNGS, won't be part of the display. Red Alert huffed and put in his own 2 cents. I mean no offense, Agent Fowler, but this sounds absurd. Why would Starscream bother with such primitive technology? Now back on screen, Fowler narrowed his eyes seriously. I'm guessing to make a big fat, primitive, weapon of mass destruction. He folded his hands together, clearly on edge. If this baby were to melt down, it would irradiate the state I'm in the floor next door. And just like that, the air in the room became much heavier, heroes and Autobots all realizing the weight of this situation. Jazz whistled and said, woo, yeah, that ain't good. If Screamer gets his hands on that, actually, I'd rather not think about that. Same here, I may sit and duck out here, Prime. I need you to spin up your bridge and send the DNGS to its destination before the cons come back for it. I'm afraid that sending such a volatile device through a ground bridge is out of the question, Agent Fowler. Optimus denied, leaning forward to emphasize the gravity of that. If there were to be an accident during its transmission, the radiation of which you speak could propagate through the transwarp vortex, and harm all 50 states, and beyond. Fowler paused after that, considering his options before asking, "You got any better ideas?" "Actually, yes." Optimus smiled as he nodded down to his partner. "Roller, prepare my trailer." The Minicon drove off without a second thought and the Prime went straight to his medic. "Red alert, summon the other Autobots back to base. We'll need a team on standby in case the situation escalates." Red alert accepted the task, leaving Optimus to return his attention to the heroes. "I apologize that this meeting must be cut short, but I'm afraid that duty calls." "Would see so." Gang Orca agreed, only for him, Yukio, Edgeshot and Crust to group up together, beaming up at him. "You need some assistance." Optimus chuckled and nodded. HM, that would be much appreciated, thank you. Not an hour later and the Autobots had bridged over to Fowler's destination in America, the DNGS now strapped securely in Optimus' trailer with Roller standing guard within, along with another certain individual. "You all right back there, Edgeshot?" Optimus calmed the ninja lying in wait. "Worry not, I am." Edgeshot reassured. "I am no stranger to darkness, Optimus, I can promise you that." "Good, glad to know. And what of our special secret?" HM, ready and waiting as well, though they're rather antsy at the moment. Prime couldn't help but laugh a little. "Oh ho, I'm certain," he set his sights onto the rest of the Autobots, with Crust settling in Bulkhead's alt mode while Gang Orca took to Jazz's. Strongarm, who pulled up next to Optimus, had Yukio in her front seat, ready to roll. "Are you ready to proceed, Optimus, sir?" the cadet asked. Fowler rolled down the window and answered for Optimus. "We're gonna have to be ready no matter what, soldier. This DNGS ain't gonna transport itself." Once again, Yukio couldn't help but burst out laughing, with Strongarm chuckling along with her. "PFFT, ha ha ha. Oh okay, I have to ask, who in the world came up with that name? I mean, really, did no one really come up with something that was less ridiculous?" Bulkhead and Crust were snickering to themselves as well. He, okay, gotta admit, it is a bit silly, the SHIELD hero pointed out. The agent pinched the bridge of his nose and pulled himself back into the cab. HMPH, alright, we get it. Now come on, we're burnin' daylight out here. He set his eyes upon the steering wheel and rubbed his hands together eagerly, before reaching for it in. No need, Agent Fowler. Optimus halted. "I will handle the driving." The agent pursed his lips and folded his arms, slightly disappointed. "It's gonna be a long trip." With that, the Autobots all brought their headlights on and started their engines, waiting for the word. "Ready when you are, Prime." Jazz called out. "Just give us the go-ahead. Autobots, roll out." Optimus pulled ahead of the pack, taking the lead down the road. Back at the warehouse, Red Alert stood vigilant in front of the main computer terminal, watching intently as 4 Autobot signals began moving down the road on the map. All right, they're on the move. Barring any complications, they should reach the drop-off point by sundown. He turned around to address Windblade, Sideswipe, Sunstreaker and Springer, the 4 having gathered just moments ago. Now, all we have to do here is monitor the situation to make sure nothing goes awry. Springer raised his hand. Yeah, about that, why are we just sitting around here instead of out in the field with the boss bot? The triple changer folded his arms over his chest. "I dunno about you, but I'd rather be a part of that convoy instead of just sitting around here doing nothing." "Yeah, same." Sideswipe pumped his fists. "Especially since Crust is out there with him. I got a few questions I wanna ask about how he plans on trainin' Ajiro." News flash, boys, Windblade extended a hand, "We're trying to be subtle with this transportation." She pointed to Springer first. "And since you refuse to scan in Earth alt mode," her finger then trailed to Sideswipe. "And you probably wouldn't stop butting heads with Strongarm the whole way, it's probably best to keep the 2 of you here." Sunstreaker was quick to agree. "Yeah, no offense, bro, but you guys are probably the most gung-ho and hard-headed out of everyone on this team." Sideswipe soured at that and spun around, curling up on the floor and drawing circles in the dirt. You don't gotta get personal about it, bro. And, I'm a wrecker. Springer expressed. Being gung-ho is kinda what we're good at. And yet, surprisingly, Bulkhead is able to contain himself for a fair while. Red Alert went back to the terminal. Whereas I have a feeling that you would jump into action at the first opportunity. If the Decepticons mount an assault, I will send you and Windblade out to provide air support, so just be patient. Springer grumbled and leaned against the nearest wall, frustrated at the situation. HMPH, fine. But don't expect me to be cool with it. Back in the States, so far, things were going off without a hitch. Optimus was leading the pack while Strongarm, Jazz and Bulkhead followed close behind, with the heroes keeping a lookout from their respective bots' passenger seats. They were on a low-traffic road, but that was expected to change when they'd come to the mountain pass that they'd have to go on to reach their rendezvous point, where they'd find very few drivers. But for now, the bots and heroes made idle chit-chat as they drove along the old dusty road. So, you extended an offer to Mina and Ajiro. Bulkhead, or rather, Buck, noted to his passenger, getting Crust to look at him. Gotta say, I was surprised when I first heard. I'm sure. Crust replied with a grin. I hear you and Miss Ishido in particular have quite the bond. Hey, we're as thick as thieves. Buck winked. Only we're good guys in this case. Crust gave a laugh at the little joke. Ha ha ha. Oh, I can tell just by your tone alone, Bulkhead. I'll admit, I was a little taken aback when I was told that more students from UA were in on the secret, but I can see that's proven to be a good thing. He nodded in approval. After all, your training has helped improve them significantly. Buck gave a small shrug. We only wanted to help them get the attention they deserved at the sports festival. After all, each of them has a strong quirk, and with time and training, their powers can probably be some of the best this world has seen. Such high praise, Crust sniffled and wiped at his eyes. It's almost enough to bring me to tears. I only hope I can provide teachings that are just as passionate as yours. Hee, just be sure to not go easy on Mina, okay? She wants to be a wrecker, so she's gonna have to toughen up a lot. Wrecker, you say? What's that? Buck smirked at the question. Oh, have I got some stories to share with you? Meanwhile, further up front, Jazz and Gang Orca were having their own casual conversation, though not before the lieutenant made sure of one thing. Okay, pretty sure that's as far down and back that my seats can go. The holoform known as Jeff winced as he saw Orca's dorsal fin still getting pressed down by the roof of his alt mode. Ya know, I could pull back my roof if that'll help. No, it's fine, Jazz, really. Gang Orca reassured. I will admit, it is much more cramped than I would like, but I'll deal with it. After all, we're supposed to be discreet about this. His beady red eyes shifted to him with great interest. Besides, there is something I wanted to discuss with you. Jeff obliged. Fire away, my man. What's the haps? Well, I hear that you are particularly close with Miss Jiro. At that, Jeff put on a knowing smile. I see where this is going. Yeah, Kyoka and me are pretty tight. He gave a shrug, admitting further, though to be honest, I think she might have a deeper bond with Bumblebee. Not surprising since he's been on Earth longer, but ya know. Gang Orca hummed in understanding. Yes, I can see that. Though to be frank, I don't know if I could hold a conversation with Bumblebee in radio speak, so I thought it easier to come to you. Orca folded his hands together politely. You see, I wished to glean some information about her from you in the event that she decides to accept my offer. Yeah, I had a feelin'. Jeff affirmed. Well, I know Denki's gonna be headed over to ya, but pretty sure Kyoka's still gotta make her choice. That brought a slight smirk to the intimidating hero's face. Excellent. I was hoping he would. Jeff grew worried at the sight of the cetacean man's hand curling into a fist. Now, under my supervision, I'll be able to help him straighten out his act. He's a good kid, but very absent-minded. He'll be learning several focusing techniques while at my agency, I can assure you of that. The holoform bit his lower lip nervously. Gee, good to know. Orca cleared his throat, getting back on topic. So, Miss Jiro. Yeah, right. Well, she's a big music buff, faves are punk rock, heavy metal and classic rock. She's got good tastes, then. As Jazz's conversation continued, further in front, Yukio and Strongarm were having a little chat of their own. "So, Strongarm, or would you prefer if I called you Stella?" the dragon hero asked. "I'd rather not confuse you, after all." The policewoman holoform gave her a shrug. "Oh, either or is fine. I respond to both equally at this point." Stella turned her head and gave a thumbs up. "Besides, we're not in public, so it doesn't matter what you call me here." "Good to know." Yukio returned the thumbs up and continued. "So, I want to ask you, are you and Ochako Uraraka particularly close?" Stella's eyebrows rose up at the question, pondering for a moment. "Well, I do consider her to be a good friend." She gave Yukio a happy smile. "After all, the femmes and girls pretty much all get along in one way or another. RC, Windblade and I almost share Ochako and Momo when it counts." Stella wagged her finger up. "But, if you really want to do some scouting on Ochako, you'd have to go to RC. She's bonded closer to her than I have." "Ah, I see." Yukio bowed her head respectfully. "Thank you for help." "You're welcome. So, I take it you're anticipating her to pick your agency." Yukio sighed and lowered her head. "Well, a part of me certainly hopes so, though I will be honest, I cannot certain if Ochako will choose my agency or not." This made Stella tilt her head. In the past, students have been quite intimidated by any of the top 10 extending offers to them, so more often than not, they don't take it. Stella's expression became more sympathetic. "Oh, well, I'm sorry, but," Yukio shifted her eyes up to meet hers. "I don't think Ochako went for your agency. I believe she decided on someone named Gunhead." "Oh." Yukio brightened up a little when she heard that. "That's very good to hear. Gunhead is an absolute sweetheart, she'll love learning under him, I'm sure." "So, you're not upset?" "Of course not. After all, it's the student's choice on where they go. And besides, I don't get upset about things like that. It's very petty." However, Yukio then pursed her lips and laced her hands together, a feeling of apprehension rising in her gut. "But this year, there is another student that I put out an offer to, and I hope will take me up on it." This caught Stella's interest. "Is that so? Someone else aside from Ochako?" Yukio gave a single nod. "Yes. Honestly, while I would like to work with Uraraka and help her improve her skills, there's someone else in Class 1A who needs my help more than anyone." She lifted her head and asked Stella, "You remember the young lady who went on a rampage in the second to last round of the finals?" "Oh, Keita." Stella's lips tugged up at their corners. "Yeah, I know her. Met her at the sports festival, and she seems like a very nice girl. It didn't take long for her to put the pieces together." "So, you want to help her get control over her dinosaur transformations, yeah?" "Yes." Yukio brought a hand to her chest, closing it over her heart. "That girl, I haven't seen such potential in a first year like her in a while. She has a quirk that can take her to great heights, if she can master it, that is." A soft giggle slipped past Stella's lips. HM, well, I do hope that Keita finds it within herself to accept your offer. Given how similar your quirks are, I'm sure she'll be eager too." "Hunk. Gia." Both Strongarm and Yukio shrieked in unison as a loud horn went blaring through their ears, the dragon hero going so far as to clamp her hands over them and tuck her head down. Strongarm winced as she glared up to the source of the loud noise, her leader. "Oh Optimus, sir. Why are you?" "Apologies, Strongarm." Prime responded over his own horn. "That isn't my doing." Inside the cab of Prime's alt mode, Fowler was experiencing a bit of road rage. Their convoy had been brought to a crawl thanks to some pissant-sized, white, rusty jalopy of a truck that was puttering along at a snail's pace. And he was making the driver of the truck know how aggravated he was by laying on the horn. HOOONK. Honk honk. Move it, Gramps. With more honking, the truck moved off the road, allowing the convoy to pass. "Agent Fowler." Optimus piped up, getting the man to stop. "Is that really necessary?" Fowler's face scrunched up in irritation, letting go of the wheel. "Ah, don't tell me you're one of them textbook drivers." He folded his arms over his chest with a huff, the two of them remaining silent for a few moments before he gave out a sigh. "Ha, ya know, you're savin', my bacon here, Prime, thanks. I am proud to be of service." Optimus replied. The Sector 7 agent put on a snark grin as he pointed out, "Well, don't go patting yourself on the back just yet. After all, if you and the cons had stuck to tearing up your own corner of the galaxy, I may not have needed your help in the first place." Fowler set his gaze out the window, looking out of the horizon. "But hey, the chips fell where they did, I suppose. Are you suggesting that there is very little chance that a group of villains would have found out about this power source we are transporting?" the Prime asked. His words gave Fowler pause again, the man biting his lower lip. Well, I guess there could have been, but the DNGS has been kept top secret. Not much of a chance of your average villain finding out about it and looking to steal it themselves, ya know. Still, Fowler shrugged and conceded to Optimus' point. "But I can see where you're getting at, Prime. It's not like evil doesn't exist on Earth, can't deny that." He shook his head and moved his hand to the center console. But let's not think about that. How about some radio? You seem like a Nashville sound kinda guy. However, in a few moments, the agent, the Autobots, and the heroes would find out that it was hardly the time to remain casual. For, high up in the sky approaching them from behind, was a black and green helicopter flying in at high speeds. And inside the chopper, were two figures. The pilot's appearance was entirely obscured, wearing a black mask over his head with a pair of equally dark goggles, dressed in an all-black uniform to match. Next to him, though, the man in the passenger seat kept his face uncovered. He was a Caucasian man in his mid to late 50s with his white hair buzzed down, his chiseled, aging features on prominent display. He was well built as well, with a barrel chest and strong-looking arms. Most prominently, however, he had two scars across his face, one over the bridge of his nose while the other went over his lip. The man raised a comm device up and spoke into it. "They're transporting the cargo in an unarmed civilian truck. Send in the ground units." Right as Fowler was about to select a station, his ears perked up when he heard the distinct sound of chopper blades overhead, bringing his attention to the rearview mirror. Sure enough, high in the sky was the exact helicopter that he had chased off from before. That's the one. The con who shot me down." He looked down to Prime's steering wheel, jerking a thumb up to the copter. "Who is he? Wingnut? Dingbat? Sky Guy? CHKT, watch your rear views." Bulkhead chimed in over the comlink, beckoning Fowler and Prime to bring their attention to ground level. From behind the convoy, a whole slew of black and green sports cars came racing up. There were at least 7 in total, and they wasted no time in boxing Jazz and Bulkhead in. "Feelin' a little constricted without the use of my fists here, boss." "Yeah, these dudes are really startin' to cramp my style." Jazz agreed. "Remain in vehicular mode unless absolutely necessary," Optimus advised as one of the cars swerved in front of Jazz, right between the Porsche bot and the rear end of Prime's trailer. Fowler sneered at the sight. A whole team of cons. That made Red Alert call in, clearly perplexed. "What? I'm not picking up anything. Though I suppose they could be hiding their signals with cloaking tech." Optimus wasn't so sure though. "Unlikely. Starscream has not been one for subtly up till this point. And these are unlike any Viacon I have seen in the past." Prime trailed off, however, when 2 of the cars came speeding up and pulled alongside him, with one moving ahead of Strongarm while the other matched his speed. The cadet tried to swerve past the car, but it simply copied her movements, not allowing her even as she put on her sirens. "Gah, you are in clear violation of several road laws." She spoke through her speaker. "Pull over." "What in blazes is going on?" Fowler muttered as he watched the other car's sunroof pulled back, and what he saw made his jaw drop. From out the top, a man decked out in all black and with his face hidden under a black mask rose up from the car, aiming a high-tech rifle at the cab. "How about you pull over?" the man barked. "Well, I'll be dipped," Fowler exclaimed. "Guess there's a first time for being wrong." Back at base, the Autobots were hearing this exchange happening through the comlink, their concern growing by the second. Eventually, though, Optimus gave them an explanation. "Our assailants are not Decepticons, they are human. Like clockwork, every bot there went, what?" Windblade was especially flabbergasted. "They're human. How do they even know about the DNGS? I thought Fowler said it was kept top secret." In a world filled with heroes and villains, I doubt even the biggest secrets can be kept that way for long. Sunstreaker figured. Springer placed his hands on his hips. "So, now what? Any plan of attack? Hey, why bother? Sideswipe smirked, placing his hands behind his head. The guys out there can handle him easy. The triple changer deadpanned at that. What if they all have quirks? Okay, Prime, you might wanna be careful there. Optimus concurred instantly. I did not plan on doing anything less. Sideswipe, he trailed off when he noticed the man in the car lift his gun suddenly, causing Fowler to flinch. Right as the man pulled the trigger though, Prime swerved out of the way and bumped the car with his trailer, causing it to skid and the shot to miss entirely. Gah, who are these guys? Fowler growled. Autobots, heroes, maintain your cover. Optimus ordered. And apply minimal force. Disarmament only. The car that was beside Optimus fell back while another one on his opposite side came driving up from just off the road, intent on getting close. However, Strongarm pulled back as well and then reared the front of the car, making it go back. The green vehicle wasn't about to give in as it sped forward to hit her back, but Strongarm swiftly countered it and knocked it back, flipping it over and leaving it on the side of the road. Ooh, excellent driving, Strongarm. Yukio commended. With a proud smile, the cadet's holoform nodded. These punks want to play rough. I can do that, so long as it upholds the law. Toward the back, Jazz pulled out his speakers and called out to the cars on either side of him. Yo, creepy dudes, you wanna back up a little bit? The speakers swiveled around and sent out a massive sonic pulse toward both cars, causing them to go off the road and flip right onto their roofs. You're making me seriously claustrophobic right now. Not bad at all. Gang Orca complimented. Almost makes me feel bad that I can't blow my cover yet. Behind him, Bulkhead reared the car that was tailing him, only he went so far as to actually roll his wheels onto its hood, causing the engine to catch fire. Yeah, not a fan of the tailgating here. Bulkhead drove off of the car and watched as it scraped along the road and came to a stop, its drivers clamoring out before it blew up in spectacular fashion. Haha, now that's what I'm talking about. Impressive, Crust agreed, leaving just enough room for them to evacuate. Very efficient, Bulkhead. Thanks. Pulled that trick on cons plenty of times. Bulkhead explained, though in all honesty, I usually go all the way over on them. Up in the helicopter, however, the scarred man was less than impressed. Those are not civilian drivers, he brought up his communicator and relayed, Squad Car B, move in closer to the trailer hitch. Prepare the laser cutter. Back on the ground, the Autobots had made it to the mountain pass, the road narrowing as the sheer wall to their right and the cliff to their right constricted their room even further. But, even so, the green cars kept moving alongside them, with yet another one approaching Prime's left side. As the curved road made Prime sway from side to side, Fowler began feeling a bit carsick as a result. BWUH, could use some air, Optimus obliged, lowering his window so Fowler could stick his head out, where he saw another thug come crawling out of his car and jumped over onto Prime's trailer hitch, armed with some sort of tool. His nausea briefly forgotten about, Fowler shouted, Prime. Bear right. The flat-nosed semi followed as instructed, causing the mercenary to be sent off balance while his companion in the vehicle was knocked straight off the side of the road. Thankfully, there was a small section of land before the sheer cliff dropped below, so the car ended up flipping onto that. But even so, the thug regained his footing and began using his laser cutter on Prime's hitch. HMPH, Agent Fowler. Optimus piped up. I believe I have what you humans call an itch. Yeah, I can see that. Fowler opened the door and began shimmying his way out. Lemme scratch it for ya. Slowly but surely, the agent moved toward the rear of the truck and sneakily grabbed at the thug's neck, pulling him out and holding him over the speeding road. Listen up. You're gonna tell me everything I wanna KN. Ow. Unfortunately, a tree on the side of the road ended up knocking the mercenary out of Fowler's hand, making him recoil. Gah, damn it. With a frustrated grunt, Fowler returned to the cab and buckled in, only for an unfamiliar voice to suddenly call in over his walkie-talkie. CHKT, I do hope you take better care of the DNGS than you do your captives. Fowler grimaced at the device and picked it up, speaking loud and clear, Special Agent William Fowler here. Identify yourself. The cold, raspy voice responded immediately. I am Silas. But, of greater consequence to you, we are Mech. Fowler glanced out the window again, his sights focused straight on the helicopter above. Fair warning, we will be helping ourselves to your device. Even if it means inflicting casualties. Is that so? Tell me, see, what's the market price for a DNGS these days? Fowler asked sarcastically. What makes you think we intend to sell it, Agent Fowler? Silas's statement left Fowler feeling a chill go through him, the man realizing what this likely meant. There's a war brewing, between the New World Order and the newest. The victor will be the side armed with the most innovative technology. There was a short moment of silence before Fowler countered, really? And it won't be the side armed with the more powerful quirks this time around. Oh, please. Silas brushed off, his voice filled with a touch more venom now. Quirks are part of the reason why we seek to enforce a new technological order in the first place. We've strayed further and further from advancement thanks to super-powered beings taking priority, to the point where support tech is almost exclusively made for heroes rather than the everyday man and woman. At that point, a low growl could be heard in Silas's voice as he went on. Do you know how many people could defend themselves if they had that kind of tech? Or if those advancements were put to use for more practical means? If heroes and villains weren't wasting technology on their petty squabbles, we could be in space right now. It is why the agents of mech are almost entirely quirkless. We don't need natural superpowers when technology can and will do better. Fowler's eyes shifted back down as he saw the green car that was tailgating Prime get closer to the trailer, with another mech agent rising up out of the sunroof. He was armed with a gun that he aimed right at the trailer door, blasting several glowing projectiles that latched themselves onto the metal surface and broke the door's latch open with an electric shock. Is that so? Fowler asked as he put on a smirk, watching as the doors swung open. Well then tell me, see, you think mech has all the most radical tech? The agent stumbled out onto the roof of the car and approached the trailer door, only to hear an engine suddenly roar to life and a single headlight to shine right in his eyes. VRRRRMMM. Blasting out from out of the trailer, a certain red and orange motorcycle came barreling out, knocking the man off and onto the side of the road before coming down and bouncing off the hood of the car. Bulkhead and Jazz both swerved to the side as flare-up landed on the road, all while the car flipped onto its roof. Ha ha ha, Psyche, the cavalry's been here all along. The scout cheered, only to notice another mech vehicle go flying right over the other one right behind them. Oh, frag, I mighta miscalculated. Thankfully, she wasn't the only one inside the trailer. Quick as a bullet, Edgeshot propelled himself out of the metal box, closing its doors behind him before shooting up into the air. He entered his thin, ribbon-like form and met the car as it fell, slicing and dicing through it and grabbing onto the two occupants inside. Excuse me, gentlemen, but your ride is about to be useless. Just like that, the mech vehicle fell straight to the road, its chassis and body bursting into several clean-cut parts before Edgeshot tossed the two agents away, going back and landing on Jazz's roof. Woo, not bad there, Edgeshot. The lieutenant commended. Really saved their bacon there. Thank you. Edgeshot's gaze hardened at Flare Up, her holoform looking rather sheepish at the moment. Though I believe your newest team member needs a bit of instructing on what disarmament means. Sorry. For a habit. Tracy apologized. Forgot these weren't cons. Bulkhead pulled alongside her and admonished her a bit himself. That's gonna have to be a habit you'll have to break, Flare. These humans might be bad, but that's no excuse to act messy. Crust sighed and opened Bulkhead's passenger door. Well, either way, seems our cover's been blown. Might as well show these mech people who they're dealing with. Reaching up to the roof, Crust pulled himself up and stood atop Bulkhead before jumping to his truck bed, raising his hands to use his quirk. Time to put a stop to these miscreants. From his hands, he produced a large shield structure made of sharp, hexagonal pieces, which slammed down in the middle of the road and caused another mech vehicle crash and burn. I couldn't agree more. Gang Orca nodded to Jazz's holoform. You can retract your roof now. Jeff gave a thumbs up and transformed his roof, making it retract so that Orca could stand up. Edgeshot moved onto Jazz's spoiler as he watched Orca put on the scariest face imaginable, the malicious-looking hero belting out a roar before leaping straight off of Jazz and toward the final car. Damn, he always like that? Jazz asked. Edgeshot gave a nod. Yes, but only when he wants to be. Gang Orca landed on the hood of the car and began ripping into it with his clawed fingers, gnashing his teeth through the metal as well. He heard the two mech agents scream in horror as they met his beady, red eyes, wherein he suddenly lunged up and smashed both his hands through the windshield. He grabbed both of the struggling agents before bashing their heads together and tossing them off the road, stomping his foot on the car to bring it to a sudden halt. Gang Orca jumped back just in time to see the car go up in flames, nodding in satisfaction. That takes care of all of them. MHA. Nice. Buck pulled up next to Gang Orca, jerking a thumb to his truck bed. Climb in, we're almost to the drop-off point. Orca wasted no time climbing in next to Crust, the two sitting down as the wrecker took off. Gotta say, you two are quite the pair of powerhouses. You'd make fine wreckers. Aw, bulkhead, you flatter me. Crust waved off, with Orca giving a soft chuckle. Later, see. Silas heard as Fowler hung up. That only served to further infuriate leader of Mech, all as he glared down at what had just transpired. All of his agents had been taken out in short order thanks to a bunch of non-civilian drivers, and 3 heroes. He shut his eyes and took a deep breath. Damn, I had a feeling that this would happen. Silas eyed his pilot expectantly. Fall back, but keep on them from a distance, I'm going to make a call. The pilot turned slightly to his commander, asking, you're bringing them in, aren't you? Indeed, Silas switched the signal on his communicator and, after hearing a few rings, heard the other end click. Mr. Black, it's Silas. Ah, Silas. Hello, my friend. A male voice greeted on the other end, carrying with it a strong, European accent. It's good to hear from you. I trust that the mission is going well. Silas grimaced, knowing that his answer would only increase the smugness that was already present in the Mr. Black's tone. Pompous windbag, still, he swallowed his pride and gave the news. We are currently in pursuit of the DNGS, but we've run into a problem. Sector 7 has brought in heroes, along with skilled, non-civilian drivers. Just by a slight change in tone, Silas could tell that Mr. Black was feigning concern. Ah. Oh dear, well that simply just won't do, will it? Silas bit back a snarl, practically hearing the smirk forming on his associate's face as he said, should I call in the enforcers to give you some backup? The scarred man's grip threatened to crush his communicator, but Silas begrudgingly relented. Yes, some assistance would be appreciated. I thought so. I will contact Mr. Rhodes and inform him of the situation. They should be there in 15 minutes. Ta-ta, Silas. Not 1 second after Mr. Black hung up, the helicopter pilot stamped his foot. I hate that guy so much. You're preaching to the choir, son. Silas affirmed. Later, see. Fowler said with a confident smile, setting his walkie-talkie down on the passenger seat. Ah, now that was satisfying. Optimus, however, was more cautious about the situation, seeing several red flags. Agent Fowler, do not take your, Silas, lightly, he warned. Megatron preached a very similar ideology before plunging Cybertron into the Great War that destroyed our world. It would be prudent to keep tabs on this, Silas, man going forward. I agree. Yukio chimed in over Strongarm's comlink. In fact, the next time I see him, he's getting dragged back down to Earth. Before any more could be said, though, Red Alert calmed in again as well. Optimus, prepare to initiate Phase 2. 5 miles ahead to the south, you will reach the rendezvous point. With his words reaching everyone else, the Autobots and heroes set their focus on the next phase of their plan. After driving for a few more miles, the mountain pass gave way to a more rugged landscape, though thankfully without any sheer cliffs to worry about. Instead, however, on the Autobots' right side, they came upon a set of train tracks heading in the same direction as them. The tracks and road were separated by a small ledge, and what's more, there was a train speeding along as well. Both it and the bots were coming up on a pair of tunnels leading through a mountain, one was for the road, the other was for the train. And it was to the latter tunnel that Fowler pointed toward. There's our destination. Autobots, keep a tight formation. Optimus ordered, followed up by all of them driving down the small ledge to follow alongside the train tracks. As they entered the tunnel, up in front, Yukio undid her seatbelt and went to open Strongarm's door. Strongarm, slow down a little, please. There's something we've gotta take care of, the cadet obliged and pulled toward the back of the convoy, where Yukio leapt out and changed into her dragon form, with Strongarm transforming alongside her. "Now, take down that entrance." "Right." Strongarm aimed her crossbow at the top of the tunnel's arch and fired away, making sure not to hit Yukio as she used her claws to do her own damage as well. The tunnel caved in with ease, leading the two ladies to start after their team once again. "Alright, now let's roll. WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT." Yukio flew directly over the police bot as they returned to the convoy, just in time to see Flare Up and Jazz transform as well. Flare Up rushed right back into Prime's trailer as Jazz and Edgeshot jumped onto the back of the train, the bot knocking on top of a certain car. "Yo, open up," Jazz shouted, prompting the train car's door to slide open. Inside were a pair of Sector 7 agents, both of them staring in astonishment at the sight of the robot peering down at them from overhead. "Special delivery. Prepare for handoff, gentlemen," Edgeshot said right as Prime's combat deck opened up entirely, revealing the DNGS inside. Flare Up and Roller undid the straps and carefully picked up the cube-shaped device, handing it off to Jazz as gently as they could. With delicate hands, the lieutenant then passed it down into the train car, where the agents accepted it with ease. Phase 2 has been completed, Optimus said as his trailer closed, the two Autobots transforming back and falling in line with the convoy once more. "Now comes Phase 3, leading the enemy away." Fowler smirked victoriously. "HMPH, let's CC try to match that." However, to the ignorance of Autobot and human alike, a massive jumbo jet was approaching their location from the east, carrying with it a group of very dangerous individuals. The aircraft served both as transport and a mobile base of sorts, where the four people in question were lounging about, currently on standby until further notice. But, in a single instant, that notice came ringing as their communication screen lit up bright red, catching their attention. Finally. A very small, very frail old man with pale, wrinkly skin and a wild handlebar mustache stood up from his chair and went over to the computer. He was dressed in an all-black bodysuit, and on his back were a pair of mechanical bolts that seemed to glow slightly. The frail man winced at the red light before pulling his green-lensed goggles over his eyes, pressing a button to pick up the call. There, on screen, a silhouetted figure with a bright white light shining behind him appeared, to which the old man bowed his head. "Hello, my master. Good to hear from you. Mr. Rhodes, you're looking well," Mr. Black said with a smirk. "Have you taken your daily dose of bionutrients?" Rhodes chuckled and nodded. "Why, of course. It would be foolish not to, after all. So, I assume that we are needed." Mr. Black returned the nod. "Indeed. Our good friend, Silas, has gotten in over his head a bit. His pursuit of the DNGS. A voice guffawed from further in the ship. "Gets me every time." "HMPH, yes, quite." Black grumbled at the interruption. "In any case, his pursuit has gone awry. It would seem that Sector 7 has employed some heroes to help them transport it." Rhodes saw the man's teeth gleam as his smirk increased. "I require you and your team's expertise on the matter, if you would be so kind." "It would be our pleasure, Mr. Black." Rhodes bowed once more. "We will be there shortly." With a brief farewell, the screen went black, and Rhodes called into the ship for his teammates, Sexton, Archer, Professor Sutton. "We're up." Not far away, lounging in a recliner, the owner of the voice from before kicked up his feet and jumped up onto them. He was a rather skinny man who wore a pair of designer boots, tight leather pants, a matching black jacket that had the collar popped up, and a purple turtleneck underneath it all. His facial features were interesting. He had a long, pointy chin, gnarled teeth that were just as pointy, and a crooked nose that pointed downward. The most normal thing about him was his red hair, that was styled into a perm. "Hee, about time," the redhead said as he stretched his limbs. "I was startin' to get antsy over here not movin' my limbs." "Indeed. 'Twas only a matter of time, though, my stalwart compatriots." A rather pompous voice added, a distinct British accent accompanying his old-fashioned terminology. This man was taller than the other one and much broader at the shoulders, with brown hair, a cleft chin and long, pointy nose, and an overbite that resembled a beaver's. He wore a pair of brown boots with khaki pants, a black sweater, and a long, dark green leather duster, though his most eye-catching aspect was the fact that his left arm was entirely robotic. It only had 3 fingers and was mostly orange in color, which meant it was the brightest part of his ensemble. I sincerely doubt that Sir Silas would be able to handle any renegade heroes, after all. Hey, ain't that the truth? The redhead, one Nino Sexton, raised a brow toward Rhodes. So, where are we headed? Rhodes typed in a command into the computer, bringing up Silas's location. According to this, Southern Nevada. Faye, we'll be there in no time. Archer, how are your bomb arrows? Bah, what kind of fool do you take me for? The green-clad man, Sir Aaron A. Archer, scoffed. You of all people must know, Sir Rhodes. The palm of his robotic hand opened up and an arrow popped out of it, with Archer grasping it with a grin. That I always have a surplus of arrows at my side at all times. Yeah, we get it, Archer. Nino shook his head. Y'all love yourself some arrows, big shocker. And hey, where's Pen at? He held a hand up to his mouth and shouted, Yo. Penelope, Penelo. Just then, a door on the other side of the room slammed open, a female voice screaming. Would you shut up? God, you're so freaking annoying, it's like, totally grating on my nerves. From out the door stepped a young woman, appearing to only be about 16 in age. She had long, blonde hair with the tips highlighted in pink, and she wore a pair of black-rimmed glasses over her deep brown eyes. Her ensemble consisted of a simple magenta dress under a white lab coat, with high heels to match. The girl's eyes narrowed at the man. And I keep telling you, call me Professor Sutton. I, didn't go through college to be disrespected like this. Nino raised his hands defensively. Alright, I'm sorry, okay. Sheesh, take a chill pill, Miss Child Prodigy. He stuffed his hands in his pockets and nudged his head toward the computer. Anyway, don't know if ya heard, but we got a mission. You ready to roll? Ack, of course. Professor Sutton replied, adjusting her glasses with a proud smile. And just in time, too. I literally finished making my final adjustments to powdered sugar, like, a minute ago. A mechanical whinny was heard in the room behind her, and Sutton called back, Don't worry, schnookums, Mama's gonna take you out for a ride in a little bit. She pulled some lipstick out of her pocket and put on a nefarious grin. Just gimme some time to freshen up. Rhodes stepped in between the 3 others, saying, You'd all better get suited up pronto. We'll be there in 20 minutes, so don't be tardy. The trio all agreed and departed, leaving Rhodes to steeple his hands in anticipation. You'd better watch out, heroes, because the future lies not with quirks. The bolts on his back began glowing brighter and they popped up, pumping bio-enhancing material throughout his entire body, and pumping up his muscles to the max. By the time he was done, the frail man from before had become massive, only just barely able to fit in the room with his head meeting the ceiling. The now gargantuan man, Colossus Rhodes, slammed his fist into his palm, his muscles rippling throughout his whole body. But instead, with technology. Ahahaha. And it's the end of Season 2 Part 21 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.